Hi, I'm Dr. Jenna Condie and I'm a Senior Lecturer in Digital Society at Western Sydney University in the School of Social Sciences, where I teach digital research methods. I'm also a curriculum champion for the university's 21st Century Curriculum Project. The challenge theme that I am co-responsible for is Future Thinkers. In this talk, I want to emphasise the continued importance of theory for understanding the world and generating new knowledge about it. I also outline some of the new theoretical concepts and ideas that can be roughly bound together as feminist new materialism or posthumanism. These new fields of knowledge are providing concepts and tools for thinking about data that you will hopefully try out and apply within your own research studies. Despite some of the rhetoric around datafication and the explosions of data we are seeing all over the place, we still need ideas, concepts, frameworks, figurations, lenses and tools for thinking through and with the data we have to hand. With theory, we can interpret data in a deeper and more meaningful way, and this is what you are seeking to do as researchers: generate insights about the world that are strong enough and critical enough to influence and change it. So theory is far from dead. It is actually the opposite. Theory is alive and well and regenerating and morphing and continuing on in various forms as scholars and thinkers adapt to the challenging and fast-paced conditions of the present. So how can we think well about the world right now? Things can appear quite doom and gloom at the moment. We have crises everywhere: pandemics, viruses, protests, climate injustices, environmental disasters, precarious work, exploitation, rising inequality and wealth disparities. I'll stop, you get the gist. I don't want to depress you before we've kicked off, but it can also seem that the systems and structures of power that are enabling these endemic social conditions to persist, they seem so rigid and fixed. How can we ever make things better? And who are we making things better for? We live in unprecedented, complex times. Therefore, we need new ways of thinking about ourselves. Or as Professor Rosie Braidotti states, we need to be thinking about what we are ceasing to be and what we are in the processes of becoming. What does it mean to be a human in times of the fourth industrial revolution, with all this scientific and technological advancement, and the sixth extinction, where we've got ecological crises and mass extinction events going on for other species? In the past few years, as I have been trying to navigate the ever-complex realities of the digital world, I have been finding hope, inspiration and motivation within what Professor Rosie Braidotti denotes as the critical post-humanities. The theorists whose work I'm engaging with can also roughly be grouped together under the headings of feminist new materialism and posthumanism. They give me the confidence to speak up and a new language with which to speak. Theorists like Karen Barad, Sarah Ahmed, Donna Haraway, Rosie Braidotti, Deborah Lupton and many others, their ideas are what I seek to introduce you to in this pod. But why? Why is the theoretical work of these scholars so fruitful for those of us examining the digital and researching via the digital in the present time? Well, the first thing up, a commonality across this body of work, is the turn towards matter, the material world. What new materialism seeks to do is flatten hierarchies that have put humans on a pedestal, and it works against the dualisms that characterise the ways of Western thinking, and works towards monism, that we are one matter, we are all made of the same materials as plants and animals and technologies. Our mental capabilities are also therefore matter. A new materialist framework where matter matters means that neither discursive practices nor material phenomena are ontologically or epistemologically prior, so that we can embrace the complexities and responsibilities of knowing, being and doing in different material ways. Let's apply this and consider digital matters. Something for us to consider is the digital world as material. What does it mean to consider the digital materially? There can be a tendency to consider the digital as not as real as the physical world, the digital world and the real world. This language or binary positioning downplays the importance of all things digital. We can think in terms of digital materials or parts, the digital labour that goes into making our digital systems. Who are the people who are breaking down our old technology into new parts? Who are the people who are sifting through the dirt to find the materials required to make new devices? Also, when we post something digitally, we feel it. We might feel anxious or nervous to break some news or post a picture or video, for example. It has a really embodied effect. The digital is material and it's effective. It is emotional, it's embedded, and it's taking place somewhere. The digital world as real comes to the fore much more prominently when considered from a new materialist viewpoint. As a provocation in class, I used to pretend to students that they were going to swap phones with one another as a research method and analyse the interior of each other's devices. The horror on students' faces was profound, so I would quickly say, I am joking. That would be an unethical research practice, but then I'd ask, why is that so confronting for you? What is at stake for you if you give someone unfettered access to your mobile phone? It's just too close to home. It's all too human. Your phone is you, not an extension of you. It's really a part of you. The second feature of post-humanist and materialist thinking is how what it means to be human is being questioned, challenged, pulled and pushed, interrogated. What does it mean to be human now that we live in a high-tech, globalised world? For these theorists, we need a new subject position for our contemporary times. Rosie Braidotti is particularly keen not to be nostalgic about the human we are losing in the processes of scientific and technological advancement. She asks, who counts as human? Do robots have rights? What new ethics are required? Widely discussed and gaining traction within science and technology studies and gender studies, new materialism takes seriously the struggles and strengths of feminist, post-colonial, anti-racist and queer theory in the breaking down of binaries and the examination of the boundary-making practices that we engage in when worlding worlds. When we call something low tech or high tech, this has power. We can categorize people in different ways. You know, how the digital marks people, it surveils people, some people more than others, and a tick box checked here or there can make all the difference to someone's life. The binary constructs, often in use within social analyses of technology and behaviour, create categories and reinforce boundaries that can and should be considered differently, radically even. New materialist social inquiry encourages awareness and bewareness of where we put the cuts and challenges the use of binary constructs that reinforce boundaries. So to give examples, we separate out human from the non-human, the digital from the material, online, offline, male, female, and we situate people and places in a web of relations under new materialism as interacting together. For example, Warfield draws upon Barad's notion of the agential cut to advanced understandings of the selfie phenomenon and to show how the separation of the photo from the body, the technology and the expressed sense of self limits our knowledge and the gendered apparatuses of that bodily reproduction. So what New Materialist does is make these technoscientific practices more visible. People and technology become inseparable as the human is decentered and agency is located within intra-activity. What also becomes more visible within this approach are the technoscientific practices of knowledge production, where research is compiled in a research assemblage or micropolitics of machines, the data collection machine, the data analysis machine, the report writing machine, the researcher as a machine. In turn, the boundaries of what could and should be included in research are confused with the new materialist inquiries that seek to make the behind-the-scenes workings of knowledge production more knowable and accountable. What is it that we are doing in our research and what do our data do and produce? In her Cyborg Manifesto, Donna Haraway writes that we should take pleasure in the confusion of boundaries as such confusion leads to a responsibility for their construction. We often feel safe by binaries and boundaries, and so thinking about them and confusing them and where the boundaries exist between humans and non-humans and different people, humans and technology, can be quite challenging and confronting. And what she's asking us to do is to accept that and the ethical commitment that comes with that, to take responsibility for the research stories that we tell, the data that we produce, and also the techno-scientific practices we engage in when worlding knowledges. This aligns much more closely with the radical philosophies of feminism, anti-racism, post-colonial and queer theory. The digital matters and we need to get to the materialities of it to focus on its social production and its functioning. What kinds of relations is it making? What kinds of humans is it enabling? Thirdly, and most importantly, new materialist and post-humanist inquiry encourages us to engage in creative practices as through creative practices we can learn new things and think differently about the world and ourselves. Creativity is key and fundamental. How does thinking with Donna Haraway's figuration of the cyborg, the hybridity between human and machine, change your analysis of, say, your mobile phone use, the contraceptive implant in your arm, the clothing you wear? Is there anything about you that is not infused with technology or technological processes? Braidotti offers the post-human and Haraway the cyborg as figurations, ways for us to think through the challenges of our times. Where do we place the boundaries between ourselves and others, between ourselves and the material world? And what happens when we move those boundaries and consider the ends of ourself as being located somewhere else, within technology, within matter, for example? The concepts and ideas from these new materialist, feminist, post-humanist fields are offering ways forward for researchers to establish what matters and to figure out and become the kinds of researchers or citizens or humans that they want and need to be. The writers in this space are encouraging us to reach out and find unusual or unexpected collaborators or troublemakers and to make kin with the less than usual suspects for working in times of trouble, uncertainty and urgency. They don't want us to reinforce the existing status quo assumptions about humans and technology, but to rethink things and to question everything and to make new theory that is more adequate and capable of managing the complexities of our digitalised times. It's intense out there, but there is much room for change, new ideas, collaboration, and new ways of knowing, doing, and becoming researchers. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this pod and your experience of becoming cyborg or post-human. Please complete the activities before your live session too.